This is what we've all been waiting for. Week 13 has been penciled since the NFC title game of last season. It's 49ers, it is Eagles, and it is here, Lorenzo Neal.
Yeah, baby.
I mean, what else could you ask for on a Sunday, 1:25 kick, 4:25 local time in Philadelphia? This is the Kickoff Show. Evan Giddings alongside Lorenzo Neal. And, Lo, it's finally here. I know Christmas is just, about 22 days away, but it feels like Christmas has come a little early in the NFL.
No question. What more could I ask for? I tell you, I got just a little pet peeve, and I think I'm going to let you have it just for the league in general. Mm-hmm. When you seen this game and you saw it at the beginning of the year, you saw it last year, you said, okay, this is going to be a game that everyone's going to be looking forward to. Why did you not put this, not the Sunday night game? Or fast forward, why not flex it to the Sunday night game? Why didn't you put it on a Sunday or Monday night? Because these are two juggernauts, and I can't wait to watch this game.
Yeah, no doubt. Like, it's always interesting, the ability to flex a game from Sunday to Monday. I mean, tonight, Chiefs-Packers, you got Mahomes on national television, I understand. But everyone and their grandma wants to see what the 49ers and the Eagles are going to do this afternoon, because there is so much dating back to last season combined with what has transpired already this year that's on the line. The 49ers are, of course, 8-3. The Eagles are 10-1. There's a 2-game separation right now for the 1 seed in the NFC. But, Lo, this is what everyone wants. This is what everyone was kind of waiting for after what happened last year with Brock Purdy not being able to finish that game, was knocked out on that first drive. And so I think a lot of those football fans that you're talking about that would love to see this in primetime felt cheated last year. So my hope is that today, by the end of this game, we don't feel like we get cheated out of what has been hyped up, appropriately so, between arguably the two best teams in the NFL.
Yeah, you definitely got cheated last year in the NFC Championship game. It was during the first series when Brock goes out. So from there, it was just a snowball. Niners didn't have a chance. You had Christian McCaffrey at times trying to play quarterback. You had a guy in his 17th year.
Josh Johnson.
Poor Josh. I mean, he got concussed. I mean, it was just ugly. And now you have an opportunity to roam the right. And I think that's what everyone's been looking forward to, because you had so many Niner fans saying, hey, look, they didn't beat us. You had so many, so many Eagle fans saying, God, I sure wish we would have got a healthy Purdy, because think about Purdy up to that point, undefeated. Think about Purdy up to that point. Everyone's saying, where'd this kid come from? Think about what was going on with the Niners and the wave that they were riding. Everyone was like, oh, my goodness, this is going to be a great matchup. And it's like, get your popcorn ready, get everything set up. And guess what? Right when you got ready to sit down, you realize, God, the quarterback of your team that made you get the popcorn ready, that put you in a position to say, hey, we have an opportunity to go to the Super Bowl, was done. So the popcorn probably got stale right away if you're at home watching that game last year.
1:25 kick, Lincoln Financial Field. Evan Giddings alongside Lorenzo Neal. This is the Kickoff Show presented by Habas Law. If you've been wrong, Habas Law will fight to make it right. Call 1-800-INJURED or visit habaslaw.com. We're taking you up until kickoff in Philadelphia, San Francisco, and Philadelphia. Right now, the two teams that everyone wants to see because of what you just mentioned, Lo, but also because of what's happened this season. And it's always interesting to see kind of how the bettors side a game of this sort of magnitude. But, to me, this is a game that if you want to talk about the Niners being favorites, I'll hear you. But to me, the reason why I'm so excited about this game is because, to me, this is a game that means more to San Francisco, that the 49ers have more to prove at this point than the Philadelphia Eagles, because the Eagles are coming off a Super Bowl run in which, of course, they lost on a last-second field goal. But they've also established themselves at 10-1 as a team that can play from ahead, that can play from behind. They've been in a lot of close games. The 49ers haven't yet, I think, outside of maybe Jacksonville, Dallas earlier this year, this would be the marquee win. This would be the signature victory to stand on and say, this is the reason why the 49ers should be taken seriously as Super Bowl contenders. So they have an opportunity to prove today that not only, of course, they're legitimate as we all believe them to be, but that they can play with the best of the best as a team that is at pretty much full strength, that has that quarterback back that they didn't have last year, that has a Brock Purdy that's playing better than he was last season, and that is also coming off with a 3-day rest advantage. There's a lot moving in San Francisco's favor, and I'm looking forward to seeing if they can prove it today.
Yeah, I think the same can be true for Philadelphia. Just looking at the other side of the coin, I know you talked a lot about the Niners and what they're trying to prove. Mm-hmm. If you look at the Philadelphia Eagles and you think about who they played and whom they played and the way in which they've won ball games, they played the Patriots. The Patriots aren't very good. They played Minnesota. Minnesota haven't shown that they're a very good team. They played against Tampa Bay as one of the worst teams running the ball. They played against the Commanders, okay? Think about that game. They played against the Rams that haven't been just necessarily great. You lost to the Jets. That was a loss that they look back and say, had that happen. Then you have a signature win probably with the Dolphins, but the Dolphins showing you that they can lose some games. The Dolphins, at times, they don't play great defense. They're a team that can score at times. So you beat the Dolphins. You beat the Commanders again, then you beat the Cowboys. The Chiefs, everyone knows it's just Mahomes and Kelsey. He doesn't have any necessarily receivers. So when you look at that, and then you think, okay, Buffalo has struggled tremendously this year. So don't you think, who is this signature? Is this more of a signature win for Philadelphia? Is it more of a signature win for the Niners? So I'm looking at it like you're saying, I think these are two heavyweight guys that understand that what's at stake for both these teams, because everyone's saying Philly hasn't played. They're saying something's off. Look at Vegas. They have the Niners favored. So these are two teams. And if you're Philly, you're like, dude, we beat them last year. We went to the Super Bowl. We have the better record. They're coming to our house and they're favored. I don't know. How are you looking at it? And how do you, when I tell you that, what say you? What do you respond? Because you're like, the Niners need this more and all those other things. But what I just laid out to you, wouldn't you be mad if someone's coming to your house and saying, I want your cornbread, give me your beans, give me your chicken, and ain't nothing you can do about it, and everyone's saying that they're coming to your house and they're going to beat you by 3 or 4 points?
Well, that's the one thing that gives me pause, and the one thing that I believe is going to make this an incredible game is to be a home underdog by a field goal as a team that's lost one football game through 11 weeks. That's disrespectful as hell. I mean, that is disrespect in its highest form.
And those guys are men. And hey, you know that. Evan, those guys are over there in Philly saying, you look at this. Everyone's picking this Niners. I'm telling you, I don't like it. A lot of
love for the Niners this week.
A lot of love. A lot of money's coming on the Niners, and I can see why. But I'm just showing that other side of this coin. Yeah. If you're Philly and you're looking at it, it's like I'm mad. I'm PO'd. And I'm in that locker room. I'm a Philadelphia Eagle. I'm like, okay, look, this is what they're thinking. This is what the media and this is what the narrative is about us. We're the only one with one loss. Look what they're saying about us.
And I do wonder also, though, if from a Philadelphia perspective, this is an Eagles team saying, they feel disrespected, but also, like, we already beat these guys. I mean, their eyes are set on the Super Bowl. The 49ers are trying to get through the NFC title game. So I do think that the Eagles, and one of the reasons why, it's not necessarily, a psychological advantage per se, but if you're Philly, you're probably looking down on San Francisco. Now, the fact that you're not favored is something that can rile you up. But Lorenzo, I'll toss this to you. Why should Philadelphia right now believe that the 49ers are in their league?
Well, they look at what they did to Dallas. You look at how 49ers just beat them from pillow to post, and they're looking at this game, and they're saying, okay, don't look at the Niners, the 3 games losing streak that the Niners have. You think about it. You didn't have arguably one of the most prolific receivers that's at a slot receiver that's big and physical, and that's Debo. You didn't have arguably the best tackle in the league in Trent. Mm-hmm. So, and they had a McCaffrey who was beat up with ribs and cartilage and all the stuff that was going on. So don't for 1 minute look at these 3 losses and think that the Niners are the same team we're getting ready to face. So if I'm Philly, so I know you're looking at it that way, I'm looking at it, if I'm Philly, I'm like, we know who Trent. You don't think everyone in the league doesn't know who Trent Williams is, the kind of player he is? You don't think teams look and see, okay, Debo, what he brings to the table, and you didn't have that? Yeah, Brock Purdy gets a lot of credit, in which he deserves. But now all of a sudden, you have all these other guys that are back. So Philly's looking at this and saying, hey, look, we got to take care of business. And not just that, the Niners want to beat us. You know what they believe. They think that because they didn't have the quarterback, that's why they lost. That's why we beat them last year. Guys, this is more. Let's not worry about last year. If I'm Philly and I'm in that locker room, what am I talking about? I'm talking about, hey, look, guys, this is about being the number 1 seed. This is about, we don't want to go to San Francisco and play that Niner team, because if you look at their schedule, they got the Niners, and they got the Cowboys who's streaking, who's cooking in Crisco. Then you got Seattle. The Giants aren't that well. You got them twice, but you got a gauntlet. You got a tough schedule. If you're Philly, these next 3 games is really tough for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Well, and that's why, to your point, this game is massive for Philadelphia, because if they win today, they can essentially lock up the 1 seed.
Right, and they
assuming
can lose
they don't fall off a cliff.
And they can lose to Dallas, and it still doesn't do anything. They can drop a game. So here, that's why this game is huge for Philly, but it's even bigger for the Niners.
Well, and it is because to your point, if San Francisco doesn't win this football game, the 1 seed is out of reach. Or at least that's the way that it looks. You're going to be a couple games behind. They're going to have the tiebreaker. You essentially have to win out and have them give you some help. But the one reason that, and you brought it up, the one reason why San Francisco does deserve to be in the same league as Philadelphia, the Eagles' resume to this point, I think, is more impressive. They got closer wins. They got more wins. They got a better team. The record says it. But the Niners, as currently constructed at full strength in which they are, they absolutely deserve to be in the Eagles league. And I don't think the Eagles have played a team as whole as the 49ers. They might have played better quarterbacks. They've beaten Patrick Mahomes. They've beaten Josh Allen. They've beaten, I don't know if Tua Tagovailoa is better than Brock Purdy, but he's a guy that can put up numbers. They've beaten some really good quarterbacks.
Right.
But they haven't beat a team that has an offense as prolific as the 49ers, a defense that's been as dominant as the 49ers, and a team that together, when they are whole, has shown themselves to not just be world beaters, but they haven't even played in close football games. That's how good they've been. So, if you're Philadelphia and you're wondering about if the 49ers are this, if they're that, well, right now, not that you throw out the 3 losses for the season, but when you're talking about the team that they're going to play today, the 49ers team that's walking into Lincoln Financial Field at full strength, that is a team that absolutely deserves to be in the same league, and one that I understand why someone would feel that they should be favored.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you right now, I think that you look at Philadelphia and you think about
Dak
how
Prescott
they're coached.
also.
Right, and you look at Philadelphia and the way that they're coached and the things that they've been through. I don't think you could sit here and say that they're not ready to play football each week. That team, you say what you want. I know they got some close wins, but that head coach and that staff, they get guys ready to play, and maybe they play down to the level of competition. You and I like a team down south that plays down to the level of competition, but they always come on the short end of the stick. And that's the LA Chargers. But you think about Philadelphia, they play down sometimes their level of competition, but they find a way to win, because in the National Football League, good teams find a way to win and bad teams find a way to lose. And Philadelphia, by no stretch of imagination, is a bad team.
Well, and that's why I love that uptick. Love that uptick. And that's why, when we look at this game, right, the San Francisco 49ers have a plus 140-point differential with 3 losses on their ledger. The Eagles have a plus 64-point differential, and they're 2 games in front of San Francisco. So I wonder how people look at this and saying, look, the Eagles are, they're the comeback kids or the cardiac kids. They're good in tight spots. But the 49ers, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful term because they have been the best form of it, but when they have been front runners, there's no team that has been able to stand up to them, that has even played into games with them. I guess the closest example might be Los Angeles and the Rams earlier this year, but every other team they have blown the doors off of. And they have established themselves as a team that if they grab an early advantage, that if they score first in this football game low, if they find themselves up by double digits, the Eagles are the one team that might be able to test that theory of whether or not the 49ers are the team that just motorboats, boat races, and just runs past their opponents.
Yeah, and everyone likes to say that. It's close to Christmas time. You and I have been talking about that. And I always like to say, if and ands and buts was candies and nuts, wouldn't we all have a Merry Christmas? And the Niners, yes, they can jump on teams and, you might score first. This is Philly. This team has been battle-tested just like the Niners. And so I look at this game and you say, well, if the Niners get on them first, maybe, it's a blow. I just think that you have 2 teams that are competitive, 2 teams that have the right makeup. So I'm just looking at just from a standpoint, I know we're going to get into X's and O's and what matchups we're going to see and who's going to do what. That's, we got several hours, so we're not there yet. But I'm just looking at just the psyche, the mental game, and that's what we're going through now is what teams has more to gain, what team has more to lose, what is the psychological, what is the mindset of these coaches, what are they teaching, what are they preaching to their kids, to these young men, what's going on right now with these individuals in these players. Forget X's and O's, because when the game starts and the kick is when the ball is in the air, X's and O's come into play. But I'm talking about just right now, it's about the psyche and the mental state of both these teams. And that's the part that I'm saying I don't really have a definitive answer of who has the edge. Because if I'm Philadelphia, I'm telling you, I look at the Niners, they had the edge, but once I seen that I was a 3-point underdog, and once I seen I was a 3-point underdog, but at home, and once I see that the Niners favored, I changed that, and I think that's what flips it to make me say, oh my goodness, I don't know who has the mental edge in this one.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think both teams got bulletin board material. San Francisco obviously has something they want to avenge in last season because they feel like the Eagles took something that was theirs. Now this year, they also have a chance, of course, when we're just talking about the standings, to close the gap to the point where they might be able to host an NFC title game in Levi's. That would be huge. If you're Philadelphia, meanwhile, you walk into this game and you have a game in hand. You got a big game next week against Dallas. 49ers have the rest advantage playing on Thanksgiving. You played a Sunday night game against, the Bills. But now they're looking around and saying the league, the media, the pundits, the people on the West Coast, they don't believe in us. Why? Today's a day to potentially prove that, because they can put the nail in the coffin for the NFC today. The 49ers, meanwhile, and this is why I think it's so hard for me to figure out
who has
which team has the advantage, is because it just depends. To me, this is going to be a game that will come down to who is poised, who is obviously prepared, but who has the cool, calm, and collected attitude down the stretch of a football game. We have not yet seen it with San Francisco. That doesn't mean that they can't do it, because I think Purdy embodies poise. But the Eagles are the team that's proved it so far. And on paper, if I'm just looking up and down this roster, we're going to get into positional advantages. We're going to get into some strategy later on in the show as we take you up until 125, where the 49ers take on the Eagles at Lincoln Financial Field. But if we're talking psychological advantage, to me, that is a dead heat. That is absolutely even, because of what everyone is saying about Philadelphia. Not necessarily saying that they're fraudulent, but they're saying that the 10-1 record is not necessarily as trustworthy, as dominant as they've shown so far.
And that's why I think the advantage psychologically to me that I'd give the slight edge to is Philly. I mean, I don't give the edge like they want it more. I think I think they're in a more dire need. And let me tell you why. If you look at the Niners' remaining schedule, okay, you got Seattle, but Seattle plays here in San Francisco, so you got a home game. Then you go to Arizona, which they're done.
Yeah.
Then you have another tough game, but it's the Ravens. But the Ravens come to San Francisco, travel in 2 time zones. So the Ravens have to, you get them in your home turf. You don't have to go there. Then you got the Commanders, and Ron Rivera's probably out of there. They're not playing for anything but draft choices. And then you have the Rams that are you're playing them at home again. See, that's why when you look at the Niners, their schedule, if they win this game today, I think it's a very, very, very strong chance that the Niners are the number 1 seed. I'll be willing to go out on a limb, because if you think about what the Eagles have left, they have Dallas on the road. Seattle, they got to travel to Seattle. So when you look at that, that's what gives me hope that if the Niners find a way to win this game today, they're playing in the NFC Championship come through San Francisco.
Well, and also, too, because Philadelphia, to their credit, has this 5-game gauntlet is unlike anything we've seen in the NFL, starting with Dallas at home. You get the bye week, but then you go to KC, at home against Buffalo, at home against San Francisco, and then at Dallas, and even you throw Seattle in there. That's a 5 or 6 game stretch in which you're playing every single team has a chance to make the playoffs or will be in the playoffs. I do wonder now that they're at the tail end of that stretch, or midway through, however you want to calculate it, how much they have left in the tank for not just San Francisco, but also, to your point, for Dallas, because if they lose this game, they got to go on the road to a place in which the Cowboys have won 14 straight home games down in Dallas. That's not going to be an easy game. And meanwhile, San Francisco, if they win this game, then they do have a legitimate belief that they can go grab the 1 seed, and I think that pushes them only even further.
And not just that, to your point, E, think about the Cowboys. When they play last, they played, Monday, Thursday? So you have a team that just played Thursday night game. So they have 3 days rest, and they get to sit at home and watch this Philadelphia Niner game. So you have a rested Cowboy team that this is going to be a black and blue and a beat-up game. This is going to be a physical game. We know that. But now you're talking about a Philadelphia team, win, lose, or draw. They got a tough week next week because now you have Dallas, and you're playing Dallas on that's been going to have 3 extra days to rest. So I think this is a huge test for both these teams.
Well, and so the 49ers, and this is the question that kind of everyone's been asking all week. Do they deserve to be favorites on the road? And from a betting perspective, I completely understand it. Statistically, they're a little bit better of a team. Philadelphia's played in a lot of tight games. They've been come from behind games. But is this a game low in which statistics just don't matter? Like, you just throw out the stats, you throw out the books, because even though the 49ers have shown themselves to be more dominant, the Philly side of things, the Eagles team right now, is a team that has every belief that they can win in no matter what type of football game it is, whereas the 49ers have kind of had a script to this point in all of their victories.
Yeah, I think you're right. You got to throw this out, and you got to say, okay, we got to throw this out, and this is just going to be like, let's just get the ball and let's roll it in the middle of the field, and let's see who's got this. So I think that you're right when you're talking about 49ers have been scripted and all these different things, what they do. They're not going to change what they are. Shanahan's not going to change. And guess what? Philadelphia is not going to change who they are. Both these teams know their identity, know what they want to do. They know what they're going to try to do. Teacher, this is about, that's why I'm saying mentally, who's going to establish their will mentally? Because I'm going to tell you, both these teams do have good mental fortitude, and they're both coached well. So this is just going to be one you roll it out there and say, you know what? Let's go get it. Let's go get it.
Yeah, and Shanahan versus Sirianni is also an interesting match. Like, there's so many of these, Purdy versus Hurts, Sirianni versus Shanahan, Hassan Reddick versus Trent Williams. Like, everyone in this game has seemingly someone on the other side that they're going to be matched up with that's a top flight play. A.J. Brown against Charvarius Ward. There's so many individual matchups as we dig deeper into this game, and we'll move forward on the kickoff show and get into those coming up on the other side. It's like, to me, these teams are about dead even when it comes to talent. Now, there are some places in which Philadelphia has a slight edge. I think there's some places in which the 49ers have a slight edge. But it's also a situation where I think it's going to be 45 degrees, might be a little bit in the rain, wind's going to be blowing. I wonder how many people view San Francisco as a physical football team, or if they look at them as just more of a finesse group because they're from the West Coast. It's the wine and cheese crowd. Philly's coming from the mud. They're a team that's been beat up and battered, been bruised, but has still found a way as gladiators to win all these football games against different types of teams. I think some people are sleeping on how physical the 49ers are. And so I'm interested to see what they prove against what has been the most physical football team in football in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I don't know, people. There are some critics that might think the 49ers are a soft team because it's the wine and cheese and we understand the Napa and all the great stuff. But I got a guy by the name of Trent Williams. Do you think anybody in the league is thinking he's soft? I got a guy by the name of Nicky Bosa. Do you think anybody thinks he's soft? Do you think people think Debo's soft? You think they look at Debo and think, okay, this guy, he's not going to try to run me over? You think they got a Greenlaw? You look at Fred Warner. You think about, the grave digger, the guys, and then went out and got Chase. I don't think teams are thinking that anymore. I think that they said, hey, this is a team, they're fast, but this team will hit you. The Niners are a very, very physical team. They get downhill. They want to run the ball. They're going to be physical. They'll go play action. They'll move the pocket. They might be a lot of mirrors and all the different things, but this is one thing they're not, and that's soft. It's one thing they're not. They are one thing that they are. They are physical. So I don't think Philadelphia, for one iota, is thinking they're playing a team that's going to be soft.
And I wonder how much the kind of body blows that are going to be thrown in this game. Like, if this is a 15-round boxing match, it probably comes down to the 15th round, and the guy that's standing last is going to be the one that wins. That's the way that I look at this football game, which, it's interesting because I think, and maybe it's just the association with Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy and kind of the pretty boy face, the young kid, the guy who hasn't necessarily done everything yet, versus the other side in Philadelphia. People, I think, do associate Sirianni with some toughness, with some grittiness, even though he's also got kind of the pretty boy face. Meanwhile, Jalen Hurts is a guy that can put his head down, can dig through the line of scrimmage. That offensive line has been fantastic. So which team has been the most physical this year? Which one has the advantage? We're going to break that down coming up next as we move along on the Kickoff show. Evan Giddings and Lorenzo Neal. I also want to talk about the fact that these might just not be the two best teams in the NFC, but where do we compare them to the teams around the NFL? When we're talking about the best of the best, are we going to see it today? I want to get into that on the other side. We're back with more on 95.7 The Game after this. This is the Kickoff show. Lorenzo Neal, Evan Giddings, back after these messages.
Television sales on Black Friday set new records as millions of Americans snapped up the hot deals. But a lot of people were out of town or too busy to take advantage of the special pricing. So, how about a redo? Right now, you've got a second chance to save big on many of the top-rated...
I think what they've done the last couple of weeks in the way that Dak Prescott has played, I think he's silenced a lot of critics, a lot of his critics that he is silenced because of the way that he plays. I can't just say I'm going to just remiss and not talk about the Detroit Lions. I think Detroit Lions is a team that is playing well, and I think they're going to continue to play well. If you look at what they're doing to the Saints, you just look at the team and the coaching staff and how they are. I think they're a tough out. I think a team that people don't want to see, and I'd hate to be playing them, they're on anyone's schedule, is the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay Packers right now are playing good football. I'm not putting them with the Niners and, of course, Philadelphia. But the team that I got to throw in there with the Niners and Philadelphia, I think the Detroit Lions, and you got to throw in the Dallas Cowboys. Do you think the Niners is in Philadelphia are head and shoulders above those two teams? I don't think they are. And I think that's why the NFC, and I think that's why it's so much parity. Now, I do believe that after those four, I think it falls off drastically after those four teams, because you look at the Saints in Atlanta and Carolina and Tampa Bay, no one cares from that league. No one even is thinking about that. You look at Chicago, Detroit, those are the teams of Detroit, of course, and I said Green Bay's outside looking in. But I think that those four teams, to me, are the cream of the crop in the NFC.
Well, it's interesting because we were talking about the gap in point differential between the Niners and the Eagles, right? 140 for the Niners, 64 for the Eagles. Well, the team that you were talking about, the Cowboys, they got a plus 168 differential. They have kicked the asses of every team that they've beaten.
They have.
And last week, I know that they had a close win against Seattle, but before that, on Thanksgiving, absolutely thrashing Washington. They have beat up on the bottom feeders in the league in a way that not even the 49ers have to some extent. So I think you're right in the sense Dallas deserves a seat at the table. The Lions, to me, stylistically, are a group that I find really interesting because when you're talking about teams that play in a dome, you typically associate them with some aerial attacks, some high-flying offenses, and generally being a little bit softer than the rest. But that's not the case with Detroit. They're a team that can win in the trenches, but defensively have fallen off over the last couple of weeks or even month. So I'm curious to see how they play in the playoffs if they have to go on the road, which brings me also to the point about dome teams, back to the 49ers. There was something that Steve Weish of NFL Network brought up earlier this week on our station low, which was the 49ers are kind of built like a dome team. And I don't think he means that in the sense of, they can't go on they can't go to the East Coast and win. They can't go on the road and win. But with how a lot of dome teams generally have a bigger advantage inside of their own building, that's why I think this game is massive for the 49ers, because if they win, they give themselves a legitimate chance to host an NFC title game in a building in which is going to be absolutely electric, is not going to be hostile to them in the way that a Philadelphia is going to be for sure. And so if I'm looking at which team I would, if we're kind of fast forwarding a little bit past this game, if there's a game or a situation in which the 49ers have to play the Eagles in the playoffs, I think it could be just as simple as, where's that game going to be hosted? And that's the team that I feel like is going to come out on top.
Yeah, it's possible and both probable that will happen, E. But I look at this and I think about Philadelphia. I tell you right now, I think with the emergence of Chase Daniels, bringing him over here to the Niners. Chase Young's got a defensive end, what he brings to the table. He can constrict pockets. I like what he brings to the Niners defense. To me, I don't think Philadelphia's defense has been tested. I think if you look at Philadelphia's defense, it's given up 20, 28, 11, 31, 14, 14, 17, 31 again, 34. I'm not in love with the Philadelphia's defense. I think their offense has kept them in games. I think that this is going to be today is going to be a huge awakening for Philadelphia's defense. Because I don't think that their defense is that. I think they're a good defense. I don't think that Philadelphia, in my opinion, they're not a top line. They're not a top tier defense. Just me outside looking in. I haven't seen this defense just show me that it can be just a killer.
Yeah, and the Niners have had some ups and downs defensively, but I'm with you. They have looked the part for the majority of the season. They have had games in which the defense can hang their hats on and say, we shut them down. Now, they didn't shut down Kirk Cousins. They didn't shut down Joe Burrow. But the 49ers in recent weeks have shut down a Trevor Lawrence, have shut down Geno Smith, who just scored 4 touchdowns against the Dallas Cowboys defense. They've been able to shut down some top-flight passers in this league. Philadelphia has not been able to shut down a guy like Sam Howell, who nearly went into their building and won. So I'm with you and I think it's more the pass defense for me, for Philly, that is a vulnerable spot. Run defense, they're top 5, and they got some big boys up front.
Right.
Of course, Jalen Carter being the biggest name there. But Hassan Reddick's great against the pass, maybe less so against the run. I think that Philadelphia and that secondary, Shanahan's going to test them today.
Oh, he is.
And Brock Purdy is going to test them today. And with Ayuk and Samuel and Kittle all being healthy, and of course you got your guy in the backfield, 23, this is a game in which I'm curious to see how Shanahan approaches it offensively, because we know he loves to run the football. We know he wants to put the ball on the ground first and establish the pass off the run. But I wonder, Lo, if this is going to be a game in which Philadelphia and their secondary has been vulnerable all season long, that Shanahan is actually going to try and play the run off of the pass.
Well, I think you're going to have to mix it up. You got to get McCaffrey involved, and you have to run, but you got him one-on-one with linebackers. So, the thing about the Niners offense, and I mean, you and I talked about, hey, look, does he need to have 30 rushes? I said no, but he needs to have 20 to 30 touches.
Yeah.
So how do you do that? And that's where you get McCaffrey out. You move him around. You saw what they did, put Debo and McCaffrey in the backfield at the same time, and now you have a 2 option. Somebody's got to stay home. Someone can't be right and someone has to be wrong, because now that play that they ran, that option, someone's got to take the pitch man. One guy's got to take the dive guy. So you have 2 linebackers that one has to, they both have to stay home and can't just converge on the ball. So when you have an offense like Shanahan can devise, even though Philadelphia is big and strong up front, I get that. But when you put those pressures on these defenses, and you do things that's going to make guys have to play and stay home, it's just an interesting concept that we're going to be able to see and witness today. So I just can't wait, for this game. I think there's a lot of things that you want to see take place offensively, defensively. But yeah, I think that Philadelphia's defense, they had a pretty good run defense. I think they've been suspect in the passing game, but also look at their strength of schedule and who some of the teams that they played, that were able to, put up some good numbers against them. So it's just going to be interesting to see how much both these teams gotten better on defense, because both these defenses have shown that they can be beat and be vulnerable at certain times.
And the injury report's going to come out about an hour from kickoff, so we'll stay tuned for that. Keep it here locked in on 95.7 The Game for the Kickoff Show with Evan Giddings and Lorenzo Neal. By the way, we are presented by Habas Law. If you've been wrong, Habas Law will fight to make it right. Call 1-800-INJURED or visit habaslaw.com. Speaking of some guys that could impact this game as far as the absences in the football game, that, again, is going to be coming up between the 49ers and the Eagles. We're talking about the run game, or the 49ers establishing a point of attack at the line of scrimmage. Well, someone like Fletcher Cox and his potential absence could be huge for Philadelphia. Right now, he's listed as questionable with a groin injury. Their starting linebacker, Zach Cunningham, is out for this game. Dallas Goedert, their tight end, is doubtful for this game, and also they'll be missing a safety in Justin Evans. So the Eagles are a little more banged up than the 49ers, who I believe are going to get both Spencer Burford and Aaron Banks back on the offensive line. It looks like Eric Armstead, who was questionable this week, didn't practice yesterday with a foot injury. He's going to be able to go. Jordan Mason, Ray McLeod, the only other questionables. Everyone else is active. So the 49ers, Lo, appear to be at full strength. And we have seen what they have done to teams, both good and bad, when they are at full strength. So really right now, the 49ers have options. I'm not sure if defensively, especially on that front, which has been their strength, if they're missing their captain or their leader in Fletcher Cox, this might be a running defense for the Eagles that has played well so far this year, but the 49ers are going to be allowed to try and test them. And so I'm very interested to see how often early they use Christian McCaffrey on the ground to try and free things up in the passing game.
Yeah, I think they're going to use him, and they're going to use other guys in the backfield to say, hey, look, let's go ahead and get downhill and try to create a new line of scrimmage. There's going to be a lot of things that Shanahan's going to test out. Going to see how far the linebacker is going to be dropping into coverage and playing. Are they going to be planning some two Mike? They want to make sure that they cover up Kittle. It's going to be interesting just to see the cat and mouse game, the first 15, and like Shanahan likes to, script the first 15 or first 20 plays. It's just during that time, he's scripting those for reasons. He's saying, hey, upstairs or whatever, hey, look, what are they giving me? And when I line up in this, what am I getting? Okay, what are we doing the next play when they get this? So that's what Shanahan does, and he makes and creates that game plan by watching what they're doing in that first 15, what they give them with single high, what they give them with two safeties. So Shanahan now knows, okay, when we do this, this is what they've shown last time. So now we can zig when they're thinking we're going to zag.
Well, and also, too, from Philadelphia's perspective offensively, look, it's not like they're devoid of weapons. Even though Goddard is probably not going to play in this football game, you still got A.J. Brown, who has a case, with Tyreek Hill to have his name in an MVP-type conversation. He's one of the best wide receivers in football. Devontae Smith, might be one of the better number twos, if not the best number two wide receiver in football. Jalen Hurts has a place to go with the football at all times. How are the 49ers going to be able to match up with them in their own secondary? We saw Charvarius Ward go one-on-one with DK Metcalf, largely shutting him down on Thanksgiving. We've seen Ambry Thomas playing on the outside, Diamador Lenore moving into the slot. How are those cornerbacks for the 49ers going to be able to match up with Philadelphia's weapons? And does it just depend on how quickly or much pressure the 49ers front can get? Because since Chase Young has got here, Lo, this is a defense that has gotten to the quarterback at a rate that was mirrored in the first 8 weeks of the season, and it's only been 3. So he has really loosened up offensive lines, and now you can't double Bosa as much as you'd love to. You can't get on top of Eric Armstead. You can't go with the Gravedigger as much. The 49ers defensive line, I think, also has a case to make today that they are the best front in football, and as just 4 guys can get pressure on anyone.
Yeah, they can, and they have a great case to make today because they have some depth, too, because you see now when guys come off the sideline and come off the bench, they're playing at a higher level. Flaro, now he can go out there still making plays because you're not asking these guys to do as much as they had to do as starters or in a more bigger role. So it helps out this team tremendously. So when you look at their defense and you think about, you ask the question, can they stop them? I'm glad I don't think they have a Tyreek type of receiver on that roster. Yes, I know who AJ is. He's unbelievable. When you think about, what this guy did for the Titans and now he's there, he's unreal. I love him. But when you think about Tyreek, that's why Tyreek is probably, you look at him, had 2 more touchdowns is only in the first half, what he's been able to do with the Dolphins. So I don't think it's a guy that's just going to run right by you. So you think about when the Miami Dolphins, you can have Tua and pressure could be in his face. He can just chunk the ball and say, go get it. And that's what Tyreek does for you. I don't think Philly has that guy. You just chunk it up and say, go get it. He doesn't have that type of speed that Tyreek has. So I think you're going to be a little bit more formable with our corners, press them a little bit. You're going to mix it up. You're going to jam them at the line and say, okay, 1,000, 2, 1,003. Someone's getting home. So now you got to look up. If you're playing corner, you're playing DB. After 2, that clock that you have in your head, you're saying, I know the guys that I have up front, I need to be looking for ball after 2 or 3 seconds because someone's getting home. So I think that they can match up, but it's all going to be predicated on what happens up front.
Well, and I'm with you in kind of honing in on Chase Young specifically. He's already played twice this year against Philadelphia. He already knows what it takes to get to the quarterback. And throughout his career in 4 games against Philly, he's got 3.5 sacks. Now, he did it with Washington, which, a football team that might have had talent on the defensive line but wasn't playing like it. Certainly wasn't getting the pressure that they had hoped from the combination, of Sweat, Allen, Payne, as well as Young. That's why they moved 2 of them, and the 49ers were able to scoop up Chase Young. But I do think that having Chase Young in that locker room now, combined with, of course, the talent that they already had up front, but having the know-how from Chase Young and the success that he's had against Philadelphia already this season, having been familiar with this offensive line and, of course, having been familiar with them in recent years playing in their division, I think that is also an added boost, being able to, provide some tips and tricks, being able to give the 49ers, who haven't played Philly yet this year, a bit of an idea of what they're going to face from probably the best offensive line in football. Even though Layden Johnson is back today, he's going to be compromised. He's going to be a little bit banged up. But even so, this is an offensive line that has been able to establish dominance against pretty much every team they've played. And Chase Young is the only one on the Niners front that has familiarity with that.
Yeah, you're right. And you got to realize a hungry dog hunts best, but also he has to have the opportunity to hunt. See, when you look at teams like the Jets and you say, okay, what's going on? And you look at teams like, New England Patriots that still have pretty decent defenses. What happens when they get down by 14 or 21? They know it's over. Mm-hmm. And guys begin to shut it down because they know that their offense can't help them. Chase Young has been revitalized. Chase Young is playing better and playing harder and even playing better than he played with the Commanders. Why? Because he knows that if they do their job, he's got a guy by the name of Christian McCaffrey. He's got Debo. He's seen, he's played with the big fella, the offensive tackle. He's played with Trent. So now you have a different type of defense because of the fact you know who's on the other side of the ball, and that's your offense.
Well, and also looking at what the Eagles love to do, and we were kind of discussing the similarities pre-show or the differences within the run game. The 49ers have not allowed a 100-yard rusher going back, to last year. The Eagles have not allowed a 100-yard rusher this season. So from an offensive standpoint, it could come down to who's able to run the ball more effectively. And you talk about this all the time, Lo. As much as we love to make it about the big plays on the outside, the quarterbacks and what they do, and we'll certainly dig into Purdy versus Jalen Hurts because this is a matchup I think that has implications not just for, of course, this game, but a potential award at the end of the season. But it's all about what happens in the trenches. And to me, Philadelphia has reason to believe that they have a better offensive line than the Niners. But I think the 49ers, as currently constructed, especially if Fletcher Cox doesn't play, have more than enough reason to believe that they have the better defensive line. If we're talking about advantages, it's hard for me to sway one way or the other because on one side of the ball, I see the 49ers with a slightly weaker O-line, but they can make up for it with what they do on the defensive side of the ball. And I do think whoever wins in the trenches today is probably going to win this football game.
Yeah, and I think another part to that, to me, is huge. It's going to be who wins the turnover battle. I think today turnovers are gold. You're playing against two teams that can get after you defensively, two teams that can score some points. You got to win field position. You got to win the turnover battle. That is special teams is going to be huge. You cannot lose the field position and you cannot lose the turnover battle if you're the Niners and you want to win this game. And like you're talking about, I want to see how these guys up front, how do they stop this scrum that Philly's been able to do every time it's 4th or 3rd and 1 or 3rd and inches. I want to see how the Niners come out, how they defend that. Because if you can defend that, do you know what that does for the psyche of the team and what kind of blow that sends to Philly? Because Philly has not or hardly ever gets stopped with that. If you can muster up enough power and enough guys to say, we stopped this play, it breaks the machine. Because this is the cheap play. You used to play Tecmo Bowl back in the day. The little cheap play. The guys, the listeners out there understand that. Oh yeah, Bo Jackson. And he had a couple things you can do to break a code and do this little. I used to use the Houston Oilers at the times and put old Givens in the backfield and throw this little sweep. And you can stop the play at times. So it did that cheap play, and that's what Philly has. That scrum with this quarterback sneak. It's a cheap play and it works. Until somebody stops it or figure out how did that find that glitch, find that one guy or find that one element that you can stop it, that's when you're going to say, that's when a team now says, okay, how do we revert to something else? We have to evolve. So I'm looking forward to seeing that play today with the Niners in Philadelphia and see how the Niners, what they have up their sleeve to try to slow it down.
No, I think that's a good point. If somehow the 49ers can stop the tush push or the brotherly shove, whatever they're calling it.
Yeah.
That could be something that breaks the will of Philly because no one's done it, but no one has stopped that play.
No.
And I don't know if the 49ers can do it, but I believe that they have the if there is a team in the NFL that has the personnel to do it, it would be the 49ers. But of course we'll see because, the Eagles have had just about a 100% success rate going back to last season. One thing you brought up, though, about the turnovers, which I think is essential for the 49ers, they are a team that has to win the turnover battle. I don't know if Philadelphia has to win the turnover battle. The only 2 games in which Jalen Hurts has lost in the regular season, mind you, the last 2 years, they've had 4 turnovers. So it's taken not one, not two, not three, but 4 turnovers to beat this football team. I think it was Monday Night Football last year against Washington, and when games in which Hurts has been the starter. And then earlier this year against the New York Jets, and they lost both those games by single digits. So, you're looking up and down. The Eagles will give the 49ers opportunities. They're going to turn over the ball, I expect, at least once in this football game. But can the 49ers keep a clean sheet? Because I think the Eagles are a team that can win if they don't win the turnover battle. I'm not sure I see a 49ers team, because they haven't demonstrated it so far this year or with Brock Purdy, that if they lose the turnover battle, I think it might have been against Jacksonville. There was one game in which they lost the turnover battle and won, but generally speaking, they have not been able to get it done in the W column when they give the ball up.
Yeah, it's tough to do that on either team. You lose the turnover battle by 2-1, or by double. If a team gets 3, another team gets 1, I'm going to take the team that gets the 3.
Cleveland's the one game that they
won. So when you think about what has to happen, you're right. You do need to win that. If you're the Niners, that's going to be big. But it's just so many other things that I look at this game and say, okay, what has to happen for the Niners to win this game? We already talked on about the mental attitude and some of those things that's going to go into it. How do they come off the bus ready to go? Field position, special teams. I think when you talk about the punter and field goals and those things, points are a premium. Look at last week. Philadelphia Eagles are playing the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen played an unbelievable game, a game that I think that they should have won, a game that you look at right now, and it would be for the number 1 seed in the NFC. I mean, you got to realize Buffalo actually dominated and beat Philadelphia. They did what they needed to do to beat Philadelphia, and you got 2 missed chip shot field goals. Wasn't a 60-yarder, wasn't a 55-yarder. You're talking about some 40-yard field goals this guy missed in 2 of them. And then at the end of the game, you have cover 0. Josh Allen realized that. The receiver beats him. Instead of looking inside, throws it inside. The receiver goes outside. Not on the same page. For whatever reason, you do that. That's a walk-off. You make that touchdown, that's a walk-off win, and you beat the Philadelphia Eagles. So there's so many things that you look at from this Philly team, and this Philly team has to say, we're like a cat. We got 9 lives because we just got away and we just escaped. So when you think about what Philly's been through, you look at when they played against the Patriots, they should have lost that game. They found a way to escape that. There are several games on there. You look at these wins that they have, you're like, wow, they could have very, very easily lost that game. I just think that, you know what? You can live vicariously and skate on ice if you want to, but sooner or later you're going to fall through. Sooner or later the ice is going to crack, and you're going to find that soft spot. And right now, I think this is a perfect opportunity for the Niners to find that soft spot for Philly to have that hard landing.
And that's a great question, Lo. Have the 9 lives run out for the Philadelphia Eagles? Because they've been playing with fire all year long. The Niners, when they've won, largely they've done it running away. They have not won the 2 close games during their losing streak. Of course, a missed field goal cost them in Cleveland, and then a final drive ending up in an interception cost them on the road in Minnesota. Meanwhile, Philadelphia, some plays they've made, others, to your point, missed kicks, a drop Marquez Valdez-Scantling touchdown against Kansas City, and a missed touchdown from Josh Allen late in overtime. Those are plays that could have cost Philadelphia, in which they did not necessarily make a play on. So do you believe that Philadelphia's 10-1 record is legitimate? Do you think the 49ers' 8-3 record could be a little bit better? How do you see this game matching up between the Eagles and the 49ers? On the other side, I do want to get some interaction from the fans out there chiming in. 888-957-9570 is the number if you want to call in. Also the number for the the Comcast business text line. This is the Kickoff Show. That is Lorenzo Neal. My name is Evan Giddings. Also on the other side, I do want to dig into the quarterback battle between Brock Purdy and Jalen Hurts, one in which, unfortunately, we did not get to see last year. Which guy deserves more praise? Which guy has had to do more? Because I think these are the 2 best built football teams in the NFL. Which one will be more responsible if they win today? Brock Purdy or Jalen Hurts? We'll dig into that all on the other side as we move forward on the Kickoff Show here today, brought to you by Habas Law. If you've been wronged, Habas Law will fight to make it right. Call 1-800-INJURED or visit habaslaw.com. Evan Giddings, Lorenzo Neal, the Kickoff Show. More on the other side on 95.7 The Game.
People who come to Cricket stay with Cricket, just like our customer, Jaron. I'm the singer and guitarist in a band, and I use my Cricket phone for everything. It's basically like another band member.
Don't miss a single beat. Switch today and get a free Samsung Galaxy A14 5G. Smile, you're on Cricket.
Real customer paid for testimonial. Must bring your number to Cricket on up to a $60 a month voice plan depending on device. Select models only while supplies last. First month service charge and tax due at sale. Cricket 5G requires a compatible device and is not available everywhere. Fees, terms, and restrictions apply. See store for details.
It's time to save big every day during our 25 days of deals at Lowe's. Right now, get up to 50% off select artificial Christmas trees, holiday lights, and more. Plus, get 40% off and free local truck delivery on select vanities to elevate your bathroom. Find these savings in-store and online today because Lowe's knows deals every day. Valid through 12/6 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
To the big-hearted,
can't get along, you might as well get it on. And by golly, these two teams can get it on. They cannot get along. They gonna get it on. You have two teams that have been looking for this game for over a year, darn near now. Darn near almost a year. You think about the table. It is set. Ian, you've been talking about, okay, what's going to happen? How is this game going to be set? What is the table? What's the whole atmosphere like? These are two teams that say, okay, one believes that they should have went to the Super Bowl. The other believes that they shouldn't have. You got to realize you're the Niners and you're like, man, we should have been in that Super Bowl. We believe that we should have been there. If our quarterback, who's had us perfect, by the way, once he entered as the starting quarterback, we did not lose a game. I'm not talking about this year, last year. So when you think about what Purdy, the wave that he was riding, the emotions that the Niners were riding, going to Philly, they were going, we are going to the Super Bowl, no doubt. And Philly saying, no, you won. We deserve to go. We would have beat you anyway. You think that as Philly, but as the Niners, you understand there's several plays in that game that could have easily changed your trajectory of who wins. One, the catch that wasn't a catch for Philly, the very first play of the game, you saw that bomb. That you take that play away, does Purdy get hurt? What happens? There's so many different things that takes place if that one play's not happen.
Well, that's why both fan bases, the media, everyone that's been chatting about this game, it's the whole butterfly effect. What would have happened and what is going to happen today? That's why I think there's so much juice around this game. There's so many eyes on this game because it's almost like people are looking at this game as the game that should have been last year and that this is going to be the precursor to what we inevitably hope to happen, which is these two teams meeting in the NFC Championship. And, of course, the one guy who you mentioned that changed all of that because of his injury was Brock Purdy.
Right.
He didn't get to finish that game.
No question.
He's going to get to play today, and he's been playing some damn good football.
He absolutely has. They say if was a fifth of gin, we'd all be drunk. But how about this? Let me give you this Christmas outline, this thing.
Yeah, lay it out for me, Lo.
I'm going to lay it out for you. But, here's the thing. You look at Philadelphia. Home field last year, NFC Championship had to come through Philly. You flip this now, and the Niners say they find a way to win this game, and they're the number one seed, and now home field has to come through San Francisco, and now you talk about Philly has to come here to try to beat the Niners. Now they're going you're on our home turf. This is why this game has there's so many movies that you can write. There's so many scripts that you can put out. There's so many headlines it could be. God, does the Niner now look for revenge because now they won home field in San Fran? So there's so many things that you can look at this game. The butterfly effect could be even huger. It depends on who wins, especially if the Niners win. They change the fate. And if they're the number one seed, now it comes to San Francisco. How much justice would that be to have Philly, the NFC Championship game here in San Francisco, a rematch from last year, but on different turf?
But the movie and the script flip.
Yes, exactly.
And speaking of some of those actors that are going to be out for Philadelphia today, we do know the inactives are Rashad Penny, Zach Cunningham, Dallas Goedert is out for this game for Philadelphia. But one active that was not necessarily expected, Fletcher Cox, defensive tackle who did not practice all week, will be active for this game, so they're going to have their captain in the middle.
Don't expect much out of him today. I think that you run at him early. I think you put a double team on him. You come at Fletcher, especially with a groin. You make him run a little lateral. You make sure he's got to put that leg in the ground. How effective can he be? He's not going to sprint. He's got to have to play in the phone booth. So I make him move a little bit. I make him run a little bit because you're talking about a growing for a big guy, and he's got to use that. So I think the Niners are going to try to exploit that to just see how good is that growing and what kind of shape it is in after a week of being injured.
Meanwhile, on the Niners side, the inactives are as follows. The biggest one, I think that was perhaps unexpected. Ray McLeod is going to be out for this game. So it looks like Ronnie Bell is going to get opportunities in the return game. They also elevated Chris Conley from the practice squad. But the rookie low, Ronnie Bell, is probably going to be the guy handling kickoff duties as well as punt returning duties for the 49ers.
I like Bell. Hey, you and I, we watched him in preseason. You saw the way that this guy was able to play as a receiver position. Guy went out there and scored touchdowns. Here's a guy that didn't think that was going to make the ball club, probably didn't think he was going to make it, but Bell stepped up and played well. I like what he brings to the table. I think that he can do a good job for you.
Yeah, and look, I know he filled in during, I think it was Brandon Ayuk's absence, or Debo against the New York Giants when Debo was out.
Yep.
He caught that touchdown for Brock Purdy. So
he blocks well too. He's a guy that's going to get downfield. He's going to block. He hits guys. He understands. He's a guy that I like. I think this guy is going to be a player, and he's going to be on this Niner team. I like what he's going to be like the Jennings. He's a guy that's going to be out there. He's going to play good special teams. He's going to take care of the ball. He has that about him. I like the grit. I'm not afraid of that move. I like Bell being active.
Yeah, and he does a lot of what Ray McCloud does. And I think he's also a guy, to your point, like Danny Gray was a third-round pick last year by the 49ers. Ronnie Bell essentially said, that's my spot. Like, he took that spot from him in training camp as well as early on this year, and now he's getting an opportunity to prove it on the biggest of stages. The guys that will have the eyes on them for the biggest of stages at 125 Lincoln Financial Field, Eagles, 49ers, Week 13, are going to be Brock Purdy and Jalen Hurts. And they're two quarterbacks that have, well, one's been paid. Jalen Hurts got paid. It looks like Brock Purdy's on his way to getting paid with what he has done, which is pretty much only win for the 49ers. And these are two guys that also, right now we're talking about MVP consideration, MVP conversations. I think Jalen Hurts right now is the betting favorite. But if Brock Purdy wins this game today, to me, I don't see how or why you could keep the name Purdy, the number 13, out of any sentence when we're talking about most valuable player, because pretty much Jalen Hurts has had the record. He's on the best team in the NFL. He's the quarterback of the best team in the NFL. He himself has been responsible. 10 touchdowns, no interceptions in the second half of games. He's very responsible for bringing them back in a lot of these football games. Meanwhile, Brock Purdy's got a chance to show that he himself is the driving force on a very, very good offense. But do you look at it as Purdy versus Hurts for the MVP? How do you break this thing down, Lo?
Yeah, you have to throw Brock Purdy in the conversation, without a doubt, for MVP. I don't know if we have back there the clip that I think we had a guy come on 95.7 The Game last week and talk about what Purdy needed, but talked about what Trent brought to the table.
Yeah, Emmanuel Ocho.
Yeah, I don't know if we can get that clip, but I thought that was pretty interesting because when you think about Purdy, what he's done, Purdy should be definitely in the MVP conversation, because if he was a first-round pick and he was a quarterback that got drafted a top 5 or first rounder, absolutely he would be in that conversation. Hell, the numbers that he put up, 100% rating one day, all the things that he's done has been absolutely amazing. But you think about Debo. Debo is one of the most physical receivers in the league. You look at Ayuk, one of the best route runners. You think about McCaffrey. You think about Kittle, top 3 tight ends in the league. I think that he's in the conversation. Jalen Hurts in the conversation. Dak is outside because of the way that he played against the 49ers. But no one's talking about C.J. Stroud. I think when you look at what the Houston Texans have in a quarterback that has nobody, and now they're starting to be guys because he's starting to make those guys. If you put his numbers in there and you think about what he's been able to do for the Houston Texans, you got to put him on that short list too with the MVP for the system and the people that are around him. I think no one's had a finer year than that kid.
This is the Kickoff Show. Evan Giddings alongside Lorenzo Neal here on 95.7 The Game. We are presented by Habas Law. If you've been wrong, Habas Law will fight to make it right. Call 1-800-INJURED or visit habaslaw.com. Well, Lo, let's hear from Emmanuel Ocho. He was on with Steiny Guru earlier this week. FS1 Speak, New York Times bestselling author Emmanuel Ocho on what could prevent Brock Purdy from winning MVP.
I've been made an official MVP voter this year, and there's 2 scoreboards, but there's also 2 realities, family. And the 2 realities is we cannot forget how Brock Purdy and the Niners offense looked without Debo, and more importantly, for my money, without Trent Williams. Like, Brock Purdy would have to do a lot to enter, and the offense was anemic. Again, Cleveland Browns, Trent gets hurt. Brock Purdy, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Then the following week, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, Vikings. Following week, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, Bengals. I can't forget how you looked without Trent. So how dare I say that you're the most valuable player when you weren't capable of elevating that team over a Vikings team, over a Browns team, over a Bengals team without Trent? Brock, to me, is a dog. Brock is a dog. I love me some Brock Purdy. I'm probably the highest national analyst on television on Brock Purdy, but I can't forget how you looked without 71. I can't do it.
Well, and this is the conversation, right? When you are surrounded by stars and you don't have 1 or 2 of them, how do you, to Ocho's point, elevate the rest of the team when you're not at full strength? And that's why when you bring up C.J. Stroud, I think it's really interesting, along with a guy like Josh Allen, whose situations have either crumbled around them due to injuries or have not been a great situation to begin with in Houston with a lot of young and unproven players. Those guys, to me, also should be in the conversation, but it's how you weigh what Brock Purdy is and what is around him. And that's, to me, why I hear Acho saying that he's not there yet. But I think a win today would go a long ways in proving that Purdy deserves to be alongside the big boys.
Oh, no question. And like you mentioned, a guy, what Josh Allen's done for Buffalo, and everyone says, Buffalo was supposed to be a Super Bowl-bound team. I get that. But what Josh Allen has to do is will his team to win, and the way in which he has to play. What does this guy already have over 30-some touchdown passes? Josh Allen, to me, when you think about his numbers and what he's done, everyone says, Josh has had bad. No, Josh he has to play great. And what you see in Houston with this young quarterback, this guy is absolutely killing it, playing great. He steps in there. You watch him today. You and I are watching him against the Denver Broncos, how he steps up in the pocket and then decides to back up in the pocket and throw a strike down the field. Some of the things that he's doing as a rookie and with a team that doesn't have a lot of heroes and a lot of star power that's been in the league that has the name. And that's why when you look at a guy like the Cheetah in Miami, he's been around, so he's a household name. They're throwing his name in there for MVP, a receiver. I mean, who would have thought that? Because of the fact he's been around. He's a seasoned player. He's a player that came from Kansas City. You've seen the numbers he put up there. And now he's on a team with the quarterback that's middle of the road. But think about what he is doing in Miami. And that's why I talk a lot about the system, Kyle Shanahan's system, what it allows quarterbacks, because no one's talking about Tua. If he beats Buffalo, if he wins a couple other games, those crucial games, is he in that MVP conversation too? Because if you look at his numbers, but also look at the weapons and the running backs and the things that he has around him. But without a doubt, I'm in the same church, but not in the same pew is what my man was saying when he was talking about, because Trent was out and those guys were out. I understand those guys are huge on this team, but still, Brock has played well, and you got to put that behind you, and you can't just say because of Trent was out and Debo was out, he's out of the MVP conversation. You can't do that, because then you got to say, well, Jalen should be out because he lost to the Jets, a team that hasn't hardly won any games. So I still think that Brock's in that conversation because of his efficiency, and he's had struggled and had a 3-game pick, and I understand that, but you still have to have him in that conversation. I think he's in the top 5 for MVP without a doubt. Top 4.
Well, and there's two things off of that too I think are interesting. Number one, Kyle Shanahan, yes, has gotten great things out of previous quarterbacks, but he's never gotten this much out of a quarterback. And so while Shanahan has undoubtedly elevated someone like Jimmy Garoppolo, I can make the case that Brock Purdy has conversely helped elevate Kyle Shanahan because of how efficient he's been with the surrounding cast. The second part of that is, if we're going to hold the weapons or the star-studded talent on this 49ers team against the quarterback, well, I could easily look on the other side of the Philadelphia Eagles and say, well, you got the best O-line in football.
Right.
You got A.J. Brown, who's arguably earlier this year had his name in an MVP conversation. You got a former Heisman Trophy winner that's your number 2 receiver.
Right.
Your defense hasn't been great this year, but has been good enough to bail you out of some spots. And there's some games in which Jalen Hurts has either not been on the field, in which games have been decided. He's done better down the stretch in second halves of games probably than Purdy has this year, but they've also been in those spots because Jalen Hurts has turned the ball over far more than Brock Purdy has, whether it be through the air. He's got 10 interceptions. He's been fumbling the football. He hasn't been as efficient as Purdy has this year. So while I understand where Acho's coming from about, when you don't have your guys, he hasn't been able to elevate this, hasn't been able to elevate that, I could also look at Jalen Hurts and say, well, if he's the betting favorite for MVP, how come you're not talking about him like he's also playing with a bunch of ballers?
Yeah, and that's why, to me, I look at the Cheetah, what he's doing in Miami, and I'm telling you, the kid, what he's doing with the Houston Texans. When you think about Stroud, how he's playing, Stroud, how he's throwing the ball, and the way that he's doing with a team that doesn't have a lot of weapons, That's why it's going to be hard to keep it away from him. I understand that they, even though they lose games and they're not necessarily a great team, I just think what the kid's done as a rookie, you have to throw him in that conversation.
Well, he's going to be in the conversation, it seems like, for years to come, because Houston is set up right now as a young team and led by a former San Francisco 49ers defensive coordinator in DeMeco Ryans.
Right. It's
also interesting to me, too, when you look at the guys that are having success on the offensive side of the ball and at the quarterback position. You look at C.J. Stroud for sure. Bobby Slowick is his offensive coordinator. He was here at San Francisco under the tutelage of Kyle Shanahan. Right. You look at Tua Tagovailoa with Tyreek Hill. Mike McDaniel, former OC with the San Francisco 49ers under Kyle Shanahan. You even go around the league, what Jordan Love is doing in Green Bay. Matt LaFleur, former Shanahan disciple. McVay even has connections to Shanahan. He's gotten great things out of his quarterback. So while we're looking around the league, there's a lot of guys that have connections to what Shanahan is doing and has done. And that's why if we're going to have these guys in their conversations for MVP, yes, situation matters, but also I can't hold what I'm holding against Brock and not hold it against other guys. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, no question. You're absolutely right. And you laid that out so beautifully. And that's what, when you look at Tua and you look at these guys, you're like, wow, was it the system? And and that's what it hurts. But I don't think it should. I think people got to let that go about this system crap, because these quarterbacks are executing it, and they got to execute it at a high level if you want to win. And they're able to do it. So I think that Purdy's going to be fine. I think that when it's all said and done, he's going to be in that conversation. He's in that conversation. And he'll finish in the top 5 in voting. Without a doubt, he will. And if they win today, I think now he goes from 5 maybe to 3. I think when you look at the way that he continues to win, I think that you have to. I think it's going to be very, very hard to keep them out from getting the MVP if he wins out.
And when we're talking about this game, again, 125 kickoff, Week 13, 49ers at Eagles, biggest game of the season for both teams, could potentially determine who gets the 1 seed and who is going to be hosting playoff games throughout the NFC side of the postseason. When we look at this game specifically and what those quarterbacks have to do for their teams, Brock Purdy, to me, I think because of how good the run game is, or how the run defense has been for Philadelphia, like they're going to hone in on Christian McCaffrey. They're going to try and neutralize number 23. Whether they can do it or not is a different question. But that's why I almost look at this game as somewhere that there is more pressure on Purdy in this game than Hurts, because Hurts has also shown that if and when he turns over the football, that his team has been able to overcome that he's been able to bring them back, that they can run their way also back into football games. I think the Eagles are a more run-first team than the Niners are, even though the Niners have the better running back in McCaffrey. And I don't know how you feel about it, Lo, but the way this thing is kind of matching up for me, I do think because of how the 49ers will try and take advantage of a weaker secondary, that it's going to be upon Brock to do more than Jalen Hurts has to do if they're going to win this football game.
Yeah, I think he will. And I think he's going to, and Kyle Shanahan understands he's going to have to exploit, this secondary, this Philadelphia Eagles secondary. But I think that he's good. I think it's going to be interesting to see, because I don't think he's just going to necessarily just chunk it all over the field, because I think he's going to try to run the ball, want to quiet this crowd down. He's going to show that, hey, he can run, and he's going to be able to get to the perimeter. I think the way that Trent blocks, and think you put 2 tight ends and you stretch the tight end, you go 12 personnel, and now you don't know which side you're running to, and the defense got to move laterally. You can't just stay home and say, okay, I'm just going to stand up and hold my gap, and the team's stretching you out wide, because now you can get hooked and get reached. And if you get reached, and McCaffrey with his speed, if you don't bring that safety down, rock that safety down, and he has to come hard, you're in trouble. And then if he over pursues, McCaffrey can cut on a dime and leave 9 cents change. He can cut and get north and south, and he can hit you with the home run shot. So I think that you're going to really make this defense play a different type of ball. You got to cover every blade of grass, especially when you have a guy like McCaffrey. So I don't know if they're just going to say, okay, is Purdy going to have to throw the ball? Is he going to have to spin it? No question. You're absolutely right. He is going to have to spin the ball. But also you have to realize, if I can go with those stretch plays and get those kickouts, so I'm pulling my guard and now I'm kicking out. I got Trent kicking out, running these guys. The defense, they got to run lateral. And if they don't get any penetration, if they don't get up the field, you're going to get reached. And if you get reached with a back like McCaffrey, it can be lights out. And if you get a safety that's sticking his head in there too fast and he breaks contain, now McCaffrey make him play space and get north and south, and he's a home run hitter. So you're Philadelphia. You're going to have to be sound in the run game just like you got to be sound in the pass game, but you're going to have to be sound in that run game too, because McCaffrey is a home run hitter, and he doesn't need a lot of crease to take it to distance.
Well, and the one thing that the Eagles do up with that front four, they don't blitz a whole lot. I think they're in the bottom 10 as far as blitz percentage in the NFL.
Right.
But they're top 5 as far as pressure percentage. Like, they get home with 4. So it is going to be very important for the 49ers offensive line to stand up. And that's why I'm happy to see both Banks and Burford back. I know John Feliciano did a pretty good job filling in for Burford as well as Banks at those 2 guard positions. But right now they have their final starting 5. And I think it's also going to be interesting to see how that O-line faces up against the defensive front. Because if you're looking at what the 49ers might have to do in the playoffs, which is either be at home or eventually maybe perhaps if they lose today, go on the road to Philadelphia again. How is that offensive line going to hold up? They get kind of a warm-up game, so to speak, for I think what is going to be an even tougher test in the playoffs. And if there's anything that you can critique about groups on this 49ers team, not to say that the offensive line is bad, but they, because of how much greatness is at the other positions and other skill groups, the 49ers offensive line, to me, has the most pressure on them of any group. Of course, outside of the quarterback and the offense doing their job, I don't know if Brock Purdy is going to be allowed to do his job if the O-line doesn't give him time to do so.
Yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from there. But I think that when you look at the Niners, I think they're going to make these guys step up and press them. I think if you're in Philadelphia, you're going to say, okay, let's see what Brock can do. And if I'm the Niners, I'm saying I want the ball to come out of Brock's hand quick and fast in a hurry because I want to wear these defensive line out. And when you wear them out, they get frustrated because the ball's coming out so fast that now the defensive line can't get home. So they're just trying to knock down balls, but they can't get home because the ball's coming out 1,001, 1,002, the ball's gone. So now you do that, but also you move the pocket just a little bit. You have some boots. Now you got McCaffrey running the sweep, and all of a sudden Brock's is booting out, and now he's got time because, hey, Kittle's dragging across the middle or Kittle's running the under route. So if you start putting pressure on this defense in that way, that's how you start making them get ahead. That's how you get ahead of schedule and ahead of the sticks if you're the Niners. So you look for them to say, look, let's get the ball out of Brock's hand early. So now let's make the corners come up and step up and play tougher. And now, okay, if they want to play more physical now, I like that because you know what? That plays a big factor for Debo because now he's a physical type of guy, can wiggle and get by you. So now you got those deep overs, and Ayuk has a route running ability. So I look for Philadelphia to try to come up and try to challenge them. So I think the Niners will be able to hit some plays down the field. I don't think it's just going to be a dink and dunk game. I think you're going to be able to find some windows and create some opportunities because of the fact the way that you're going to be scheming them and the way you're going to come after them, it's going to cause some windows to be open in that secondary.
And how is Christian McCaffrey going to impact this football game? How is he going to lay his fingerprints on the path to victory for the 49ers? We're going to get into that on the other side as we continue on the Kickoff show. That is Lorenzo Neal. My name is Evan Giddings. About an hour away from kickoff between the 49ers and the Eagles, Week 13, Lincoln Financial Field. We continue on the Kickoff show after this.
Television sales on Black Friday set new records as millions of Americans snapped up the hot deals. But a lot of people were out of town or too busy to take advantage of the special pricing. So, how about a redo? Right now, you've got a second chance to save big on many of the top-rated Samsung, LG, and Sony TVs. Where? At Video Only, where the smart shoppers go. So, don't miss out. Check out Video Only now, or
you'll be sorry.
Hi, I'm Nabil Ahmed. Have you been summoned to court to deal with a restraining order? It's crucial to understand the potential consequences and steps needed to protect your rights. A restraining order can have long-lasting negative impacts on your life. It can last up to 3 years, appear on...
Talk, John. Oh, he's not this, he's not that. And that drives him. The parents, his bloodline, that drives him. Oh, come on. You hear the things that are out there. People act like McCaffrey. Oh, white guy, how does this dude do this? How is he faster than all these brothers? Man, that drives him. He loves hearing the critics and people hate on him. And that's what drives him. So I love the guy. I love him.
Well, and it's always interesting to me too because he's a Stanford man.
Yes,
he's a legacy.
He's Stanford.
He doesn't have the melanin. To your point,
thank you.
Just
say it, dog. Just say it.
Everyone's looking at McCaffrey like, who is this guy?
And that's what I love because if you say that, oh man, you're being no, you're not being. That's what I get tired of, boy. Oh, you're not being a racist. Usually in the National Football League, you don't have a lot of white guys. Newsflash, there's not a lot of whiite guys playing running back.
Especially, the running back, cornerback.
Yeah,
unless they go to Iowa, we don't see them.
Right. And usually, if they're even, if they are running the ball, and if they get in a foot race, even if they're even, usually if they're even, they're not leaving. McCaffrey, if he's even, he's leaving. If you see the back of 2-3, it's too late.
Well, and that's why, to me, I don't know if people necessarily underrate how good he is, but when you watch him play, there's no deficiency in his game because he's got the breakaway speed. He can catch the ball out of the bag. He could go out and he can catch 100 balls on the outside. He could go for 1,000 yards rushing, receiving if they chose to use him in those spots. But he'll also block. I mean, he'll stick his helmet, he'll put his hand in the dirt, and he'll get up in someone's grill, pick up a blitzing linebacker, get in the face of a DN, he'll chip. He does everything for this team. And so when people say, all right, I get it, Brock's giving him his props, he's been incredible. Christian McCaffrey, in so many ways, can be the driving force for this game against this team in Philly.
I think Christian McCaffrey has got some rhythm, brother. I think
he's got a right and a left foot.
Yeah, he knows how to dance because this dude, you watch him, he can make guys miss in a phone booth. You saw that play last week in Seattle. Oh. He's running to the left. The hole looks jammed. I mean, and he cuts back. Cuts back again. Jump inside and let's holler. Let's get in the end zone. Come on, he looked stopped. I mean, the way that he's able to move in the phone and those quick feet and way that the guy's electrifying. Best back in the league. Let's just say it. Here he is, this guy. If you talk about total back, there's guys maybe stronger. There's guys, I'm not going to say are faster. There's guys, but he's probably the best catching running back out of the league, probably the best, but fastest. And his football IQ is off the scale.
Well, and I think he's kind of representative, too, of this 49ers offense, which is, to your point, they don't have the best receiver in football. They don't have the best tight end in football. They have the best running back in football. They probably got the best left tackle, but they don't have the best offensive line. They probably don't have the best quarterback.
No.
They don't have the best at these positions, but together, the collective skill set and the collective productivity of this offense is unmatched. And Christian McCaffrey, in many ways, is what makes it go. And so when we're bringing up the MVP conversation, I understand it's hard. It goes to a quarterback pretty much every single year, but that's why. And we're talking about how Acho is holding it against Brock Purdy because of the offensive line. To me, if there's one guy you could hold against Brock Purdy, it's the guy that lines up right next to him in McCaffrey because he does everything that you need and then some. And he's a guy that makes it impossible for you to take him off the field because every time he's not there, you immediately see the glaring skill set that's missing and you see the threat that's not there because the Eagles and whoever is on the opposite sideline of the 49ers has to respect McCaffrey and honor where he is on any given play.
You better. If you don't respect him and if you say, okay, that's just a guy, you're in trouble. because he can kill you in the screen game. He can kill you on the wheel route. He can kill you on that flat, that wheel route where it's, the flat and up, where boom, look like he's running out in the flat. You think, okay, this guy's just running a flat route, and all of a sudden he turns it up on a wheel route, because once you commit to thinking it's a flat, he turns up on you, he's going to run by you. So if you just think of him as just a guy, have fun. If you think of Christian McCaffrey as just a guy, and just like every other running back, you're going to be in for a long day. And let me tell you right now, the Philadelphia Eagles do not look at him as just a guy. The Philadelphia Eagles is not saying, oh, okay, Christian McCaffrey, we can key on him. He can't run. This guy runs hard. He runs physical. He'll run around you. He'll run through you. He'll catch the ball over you. He'll do so many things for this Niner team. And guess what? Other teams in this league and other teams today, Philadelphia, they know that. And trust me, they're going to account for him, and they're going to do everything they can to shut him down, because they know if you can shut down McCaffrey and make him quiet, I think the 49ers, I think you win this game. If McCaffrey can't do anything in the passing, if you can hold him down in both dimensions, I don't see how the Niner wins this game today.
That's Lorenzo Neal. My name is Evan Giddings. This is the Kickoff Show, 95.7 The Game, taking you up until Eagles and 49ers at 125 Lincoln Financial Field. A heavyweight fight. There's no doubt about it. Shout out to our producer, John Lucan, who's making this show go. He just sent me, a little video that the Niners put out before this game. We're talking about McCaffrey, right?
Yeah.
Well, McCaffrey, along with just about everyone for the 49ers, they showed up in all black.
Oh.
They showed up in some leather.
Really?
They showed up with some ice. And they showed up with an attitude, it looks like, as they're walking into Philadelphia. I got to show you this video during the break.
Yes.
All black everything for the 49ers. And you tweeted this out when we were talking about the type of approach for this game. And it's looking like it's a business trip for the 49ers.
That's what I put on my tweet. Business trip, be ready, and some revenge. This is, you say what you want, call it what you want. This is revenge. This is a road trip, but this is a business trip. And that's why they showed up in black, because somebody going to lay down. Somebody finna go to sleep. That means night. When you turn up in all black, guess what? I ain't in a good mood. If I'm wearing all black and you turn up at a funeral, usually you saying, man, we finna, after the funeral, then you, baby, us get turned. Let's go ahead and celebrate. But right now, we coming in all black into Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love, and we said we gonna hand out that butt whooping. Right now, oh my goodness, I'm so fired up, dog, right now. God,
this is why I love doing shows with you. You got me
fired up.
Psyched.
You got me gassed right now.
And talking about the body bag.
I'm sort of built for this.
That's Steve Wilkes. Thank you very much. I'm actually glad, because Steve Wilkes right now, he's got a game on his hands. And we've talked about it with Shanahan and Purdy and McCaffrey. Steve Wilkes quietly, and I don't know if it's just because he's the newest man in the building and he's replacing a D'Amico Ryans who we're talking about earlier, going on and doing great things in Houston, and the rest of the coaching staff that's been fantastic in previous years on the defensive side of the football for the 49ers. But Steve Wilkes has been having himself a run since we discussed the 3-week losing streak. And whether you want to blame it on him being in the booth, I think that's bogus. Whether you want to blame it on him now being on the sideline, to me, he's been calling close to perfect games each of the last 3 weeks against Jacksonville, holding that offense at 3 points on the road. The Buccaneers, the defense closed out that football game with a pick courtesy of rookie Jair Brown. And the Seattle Seahawks mustered just one touchdown. No touchdowns. They got a pick six. They got 6 points offensively against this 49ers defense. And Steve Wilkes right now is the owner. He is the deployer. He is the man that makes the number one scoring offense, averaging 15.5 points a game allowed. He's the guy that is sicking the dogs on opposing offenses. And I think he's going to be the guy that is responsible for making Jalen Hurts' life hell today.
Hey, and I love what he said. I'm built for this. You got to love that, man. You know what? You could take another defensive coordinator. Remember Billy D. Williams, Coke 45 back in the day? He said, you could drink another malt liquor. He said, why take chances, baby? You could take another defense, but why take chances? The 49ers are built for this. They're ready to go and travel. They dressed in black. They said, let's go take care of business. And that's what it's about. This is a business trip. This is a game that you're trying to put your will and intimidate and beat a team that's the number one seed that's in front of you. That's all this is about. They are the next team up. They are in front of you. That is your block. That is the wall that you have in front of you as a Niner. Say, we have to beat this wall down. We have to knock this wall down. We did not fly all the way out here to Philadelphia to get on a plane and fly 5-6 hours back in a bad mood. We came out here in a pissed off way, and we're going to go back happy. That's what this is about. This is so simple, man. Football is about X's and O's. It's about one ball. Only one guy can get it at one time. See ball, get ball. Football, quit making it difficult. This is about Wilkes saying, okay, boys, let's go get that football. They have that ball. Let's go take it away. That's what it's about. It's about recall defense, get the ball back. Offense, score. Recall defense, get the ball back. Offense, score. That's what it. Oh man, I'm sorry. I'm getting too gassed right now. I got to hold on.
I know you look like you're about to put a helmet on.
Yeah. I was getting fired up. Fired up to watch this game.
But that's also part of it too, right? It's the physicality. It's what we talked about at the beginning of the show. It's what the 49ers have within them, which is an ability to establish a physical presence, whether it's at home or on the road, whether it's against a Philadelphia Eagles team that believes they're the team that is going to be blacking and bruising the 49ers. You know that by the end of this game, both teams are going to be tired. They're going to be sore. They're going to be bloodied. They're going to be bruised. And I look at a guy like Christian McCaffrey because on Thanksgiving, one thing that stood out to me, Lo, they're in the all-white jerseys. Yeah. They're looking clean up there in Seattle. And the pretty boy 49ers, people call them, had blood all over their jerseys. Yeah. Christian McCaffrey had the bruises up and down his triceps. I mean, he was representative of the battering ram that they took into Lumen Field and laid on the Birds. This week, they got a different flock. They got the Eagles, and it's going to take a bigger battering ram. It's going to take more poundings. It's going to take more carries. It's going to take more attempts. But this is a game in which I think the 49ers are going to have a chance to put people on notice just about how much of the bullies they are and believe themselves to be. That's why I see them showing up in black. That's why I see them with the ice with the straight face, no lace. That's why I see the 49ers in this game winning, not because of the aerial attack and all of this, but because I believe that on this day, they can be the tougher football team in Philadelphia.
Yeah, and they're going to have to be. This is going to be a physical game, and this is a game that, you know what, you say, hey, you know what you guys said about us last year, and you were laughing, and it wasn't a game. At the end of the game, you guys on the sideline, you're joking around. Everyone's looking, oh, we got this game, and everyone just counted them out. This is their revenge game. This is a game, and Philly's like, okay, yeah, we understand they're coming, but Philly don't know what they're getting ready to see. But their coach is trying to. Don't worry, they're going to be ready to play. I just think that the Niners in a great situation. You're the Philadelphia Eagles. You just got a hard week. You just came off a tough win, beating Buffalo, finding a way, going into overtime. I just don't think they have. I don't think it's not that they don't want it. For me personally, I just don't know if they have enough in the tank to beat the 49ers today.
Well, and that's, I think, also what's so important, too, about this game, because we laid it out. If the Eagles win this game, they essentially get the 1 seed. Like, you'll have to see them in Philadelphia in the playoffs. But the difference is, if that happens, you won't have the advantage of 3 days rest. You might be a little more banged up because Philadelphia is probably going to have one less playoff game that they've had to play to that point. This is a prime opportunity for the 49ers, and what I think is big about this game, they can have a chance to steal back home field advantage for the playoffs, in which that might be a game that is on even ground, that is on even level. So they have some advantages today as far as, the rest and the Eagles playing through a gauntlet right now. This is potentially the most feeble spot for the Eagles. This is where they are the most vulnerable. And so if the 49ers can't win today, not to say that they can in the playoffs go in and win, and circumstances are going to change for sure, but you have a great opportunity today to give yourself a better chance to win in the postseason if you can get this game. And again, I'm not saying that the Eagles win, that they're all of a sudden going to blow out the 49ers in the playoffs. I don't believe that to be so. But the Eagles are in a vulnerable spot right now, and if the 49ers are the team that I believe them to be, they'll smell that blood in the water. Yeah,
it's sort of like this, E. When you think about you go out and work out, and you say, put 225 on the bench, and you go ahead and lift it. You like your max. Let's say your max 225, 300, might be 400. I don't know what your max is, big dog. Maybe 500. Where are you at? 600, 700? Where you
squat, bench? What do you mean?
Bench, man. You bench.
1,000-pound club?
What do you got? 1,000 pounds. So go out there one day and say, let me put you 300 pounds on there, and I'll spot you, and I want you to do it 5 times. Then I want you to put 400 on the squat, and I'll spot you, and I want you to do it 10 times. Then I want you to do push-ups to failure. Then I want you to go ahead and do abs to failure. Then, you know what? The next day, let's see how many you can do. Let's see how you feel the next day. Let's see how you feel the day after that. That's what the Philadelphia's had to be going through. They played a Buffalo Bills team that they had to put it all on the bench, and they went in hard. It took you to overtime. And so that was a physical, hard-hitting game. I just think now with the Niners having those 3 days, extra days, to me, it's not about the mental. I know we talked about the mental aspect. You said, what is the tilting factor for me? Why I picked the Niners today? Is those 3 extra days, because what Philadelphia has been through, I think the Niners have a huge advantage because of the rest.
Yeah, and right now the Eagles also played such a physically demanding football game against the Buffalo Bills. And I know that they're not the ones that have to travel. They got home field. But I think that is a big reason why the 49ers are favored in this game, because you cannot understate the importance of a mini-bye kind of built into the schedule. And for the 49ers to do what they did to the Seahawks, I thought was impressive because of the short rest. You go on the road to get one less day of practice. But they also kind of went all out for that game. They didn't ease up on McCaffrey. They didn't ease up on Ayuk or Debo. They used all of their big boys to try and end that game as early as possible. And now you get that rest on the back end. You take it into Philadelphia, a team that I don't believe is reeling by any means, but they got to be feeling the bruises from the Cowboys 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago. Yeah. They got to be feeling the bruises from the Chiefs on that Monday night game, the bruises from Buffalo in overtime. And so now they get their physicality tested in the best kind of way. So this is another place where I feel like the 49ers have to have an advantage. They have to be the ones out of the gates that are quicker to the ball, that are hitting harder.
Facts.
That's what you want to see.
No question, E. You spot on, man. I mean, go on. I was just saying preach because you was bringing it home. That's what you have to. You got to make sure that those bruises don't have a chance to heal. Because after you get warmed up, you're like, okay, I'm all right. Too late. If the turtle in the hair, but you got to get out on that. If you're the turtle, you got to get out on that rabbit, and hopefully he ain't able to catch you. That's what the Niners got to. You got to start fast and make this thing physical right away. I'm coming at him. I'm getting downhill, and I'm saying, okay, Fletcher, okay, Cox, I know you're a Pro Bowler. I know you're a great player, going to be probably a future Hall of Famer. I'm coming at you right now. I want my boys to put their big boy pads on, and I'm going to kick your butt, get you off the line of scrimmage. I'm running right at this Philadelphia team. I'm going to take my shots, but I'm going to make this physical quick. I'm going to make it physical early because now when you come to the side, man, come here. Good to see the trainer. Maybe a little more icy hot. Hey, put some more on my shoulder. I want to make this game physical quick. I don't want to give them time to recover. That's what the Niners have to do. Come out swinging right away. You are Mike Tyson, and you are trying to deliver that knockout blow because they don't want you to hit them in the body. They don't want you to bang on them early. They want you to try to jab and let them get ready. No, you ain't coming out jabbing. You coming out saying, I'm coming to do 2 things today, and that's chew bubble gum and kick butt. And right now, I'm fresh out of bubble gum.
Man, that is Lorenzo Neal.
Sorry about
Evan
that.
Giddings with you on the Kickoff Show. No, I'm with you, and I think it's important from a toughness standpoint and a physical standpoint for sure, but it's also important from the literal standpoint of the 49ers to this point, Lo, have not shown us yet that when the game does not go on script, when the game goes off script, how are they going to respond? They have not responded as positively as we have liked to see. The only example we have of that to this point in the season is Week 3 against Los Angeles, in which the game was tied at half. They were down. Brock Purdy got the sneak going into the half, and then they came out and they motorboated the Rams in the second half. How do they play if they fall behind, if the game goes off schedule? These are the things that, personally, Lo, I don't want to see, because I haven't seen the 49ers stand up to them yet.
I want to see it, man. Hey, E, I want to see it.
Okay.
Because here's the deal.
Okay.
I know, you're right. We haven't seen them come from behind. We got to go to break?
No.
Okay. Yeah, we haven't seen
it's all
them
you.
come from behind.
Yours.
We haven't seen, like you said, we don't want to, and we're like, you got a little kid, you put him out there, and you're like, oh, my God, you got to play football for the first time. Go ahead and knock him out. Show him that you can get back up. We haven't seen it, but the Niners need to prove it to themselves. They can prove themselves. Even if you come out swinging and something goes awry, you come back swinging. You got to show it to yourself that you can. You can't be a front runner all the time. You can't put no Shetland pony in the Kentucky Derby. Come on, E. You hear the thunder before you see the lightning. Tell you the rain is on its way. Come out of the rain. Let's fight, baby. If you can't get along, like I said, let's go right now. I don't care if they start slow. You got to show that your team, you need to show your fan base, and you got to show yourself that even though I might not start like you want me to start, it's not where I start, it's where I finish. If I can look up, I can get up, and you fight the whole game.
You bet.
I'm sorry, man.
No, I'm telling you
I'm
that.
so fired up right now.
For those wondering, Lorenzo Neal did have 1 cup of coffee.
Yeah, I just got
and
it.
It was right before this commercial break. It was right before that last segment. That's what he's sipping on right now. A little something sweet, a little something
Starting
caffeine.
to sweat even.
I know, man. So are the 49ers. It's about a half hour until kickoff. 1:25, Lincoln Financial Field. 49ers and Eagles going toe-to-toe, potentially the 1 seed on the line. That is to be determined. What is a fact is that the 49ers want what the Eagles have, what they got last year, which was a trip to the Super Bowl, and you can't get a trip to the Super Bowl today. You can't go and hoist a Lombardi today, but you can give yourself the best chance to do that in the future if you win on the road in Philadelphia. And that's why this game has been highlighted and marked 16 different ways by every pundit in the country, because everyone has their eyes on this game. That's why we're excited about this game. That's why we're hyped. And if you are too, on the other side, we got a couple of minutes for some calls or text. 888-957-9570 is the number. Predictions for this game. What do you think is going to happen in Philadelphia between the 49ers and the Eagles? We're excited. It's a game that the 49ers are favored in. But right now, Lo, I look at these two teams on the same level. I look at them as by the end of this game, we're going to figure out who the best team in the NFC is, maybe who the best team in the NFL is, and that's why I can't wait for this thing to kick off.
And you shouldn't. And we have about 25 minutes before it kicks off. I'm going to be sitting next to you. I'm going to go get my helmet. I'm going to get some shoulder pads, and I might have to tackle you a couple times. I might want to run through you a couple times.
Take it easy on me.
No, I can't take it easy because I'm telling you, this is a game that I know a lot of fans want to watch. I'm telling you, and this isn't just the Philadelphia and Niner fans that's going to watch this game. You're going to have football fans watching this game because this is going to be a heavyweight fight, and this is what we want to see.
I mean, right now it's So we know the inactives for this game. Raymond McLeod's out for the 49ers. On the Eagles side, they're going to be missing Dallas Goedert, Zach Cunningham, their linebacker. Those are kind of the big boys that are out in this game. Everyone else is going to be there. I mean, the weather, there's supposed to be right now about 45 degrees, chance for rain, precipitation's in the air, the wind's going to be there. And I do wonder, too, because of how even right now it feels like both the offense and the defense probably give the advantage on defense to the 49ers. Offensively, I see them about the same. I don't know, Lo, do you think this is a game that if we look at the special teams, because they're going to need all three phases to play well, both sides to come out with a victory, is special teams where you could see the 49ers maybe being a little vulnerable considering they're missing their punt and kick returner, and also they do have a rookie kicker in Jake Moody as opposed to Jake Elliott, who we saw hit a 59-yarder in the rain to send that game in Buffalo versus Buffalo to overtime. Do you think the special teams is maybe where the Eagles could say, hey, this might be where we got you?
No question. And that's what the Eagles are planning on all week long. And I'll tell you, and hopefully Kyle Shanahan, I think that he is, and he's that type of coach. All week you put a little bit more emphasis on special teams. Those 3 days off, those 3 days you had, you wanted to put a little bit more emphasis on the special teams. You have to. And that's where Philly is saying, look, if we're going to have some edges, it's going to be in special teams. And that's where the Niners have to shore up everything, because special teams, I'm telling you, always say offense counts as a third, defense counts as a third, and special teams counts as a third. If you think about every extra point that's kicked, every field goal, every punt defense, every punt block, every single thing, you think about that's 15, 30 plays a game. So that is a huge part. People don't sometimes put enough emphasis, and I think Kyle Shanahan understand that's going to be a part that he needs to win.
One final break before we come back and give out our final predictions on the 49ers and the Eagles, yes, but also what's going to be the keys to this game? What is going to get the 49ers into the win column in Philadelphia, put them in a position, a game back of the 1 seed, and what we believe will happen on the other side. 125 kick. Stick with us through the break. Evan Giddings, Lorenzo Neal. This is the Kickoff Show, 95.7 The Game. We're back after this.
Television sales on Black Friday set new records as millions of Americans snapped up the hot deals. But a lot of people were out of town or too busy to take advantage of the special pricing. So, how about a redo? Right now, you've got a second chance to save big on many of the top-rated Samsung, LG, and Sony TVs. Where? At Video Only, where the smart shoppers go.
Now back to the Kickoff Show on 95.7 The Game.
All right, 20 minutes until kickoff. Lincoln Financial Field, 49ers and Eagles. The 49ers are favored. The Eagles are the team with the 1 seed in the NFC. A lot on the line today in what is a rematch of the NFC title game from last year. Brock Purdy is healthy. He will be there. Jalen Hurts is going to be in the building. The 49ers are walking in all black, and as we get you set here on the Kickoff Show, Lorenzo Neal, Evan Giddings, a reminder that we're presented by Habas Law. If you've been wrong, Habas Law will fight to make it right. Call 1-800-INJURED. Visit habaslaw.com. On overtime, make sure to follow up after the game. Final whistle, Mark Granding, Sterling Bennett are going to have you set for reaction to what has been the biggest game so far, arguably of the NFL season, but certainly for these two football teams. I know we threw out the number right before the break, Lo, so I want to get to Connor, and SF has a prediction for the game. Connor, what's going on? You're on the Kickoff Show with Evan and Lo. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. Really excited for this rematch. You know, I think last year it was a snubbed of being a really good game. I was excited to watch it. Wasn't a good game last year, so I'm really excited for this rematch.
Cannot wait, man. I mean, and that's kind of the feeling, Lo, at this point, right? It's like,
he's absolutely
we just need this game to kick off.
Right, and he's right because, he was excited. Everyone was excited, but then once, Purdy goes out, all the excitement left the building. I mean, because it was like you didn't even have any optimism. It was like you were hoping and praying a miracle could happen. I mean, take any starting quarterback off any team and then try to go win a football game. It just doesn't happen, and it's not going to happen. So the Niner fans knew. You saw the players on the sideline. They knew what was the inevitable was taking place right in front of their eyes, and it was nothing they could do. They put in a quarterback that was in his 16th year, that haven't played in years. You think about how are you winning that game in the NFC Championship game?
Well, no, and they didn't. And the Eagles also did not win the Super Bowl. So the Eagles got a chip on their shoulder as far as the final goal. The 49ers got that chip on their shoulder. They want to take down the Eagles. The Eagles want to establish supremacy in the NFC. In my opinion, these are the two best teams, possibly the two best teams in the NFL going toe-to-toe here this afternoon. Predictions for the game, Lo. If we're thinking about what's going to happen here today, what do you think the score is, and why do you think it happens?
Yeah, I think it's something like 30, 33 to maybe 21. I just don't think Philly's defense can slow down the Niners, and I think the Niners can slow down their offense. So I'm gonna go 28-21 Niners.
A high-scoring game. I also have the 49ers winning this football game. I think it's going to be tight, though. I see the 49ers winning this football game because the number that they've thrown up has been 30 for 30. I mean, they've reached that mark virtually every single game. I think they do it again, and I think they get it done 31-27. I think that'll be the score. I think there's going to be some kicks involved. I think that the 49ers are a team that's going to play primarily from ahead in this game, and they're also going to cover the 3. That's the bet I like in this game. I also like the over because I also think these two offenses, the Eagles find a way to produce points. Meanwhile, their defense also gives up a lot of points. And I think Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey are going to be able to take advantage of that. I think a big game for 23 is up and is going to be there. As far as the position players, the skill players for San Francisco, I'm kind of looking at George Kittle. I think he's a guy that's going to be able to take advantage of a linebacking core that's going to be missing Cunningham. And the Eagles have not really been able to keep many tight ends in check. They've given up big games to T.J. Hawkinson. They've given up big games to Dalton Kincaid. They've given up big games to other tight ends. And Kittle's kind of been a little bit quiet lately. I think he's due for a breakout.
Yeah, so do I. And I just don't think, like I said earlier, I just don't see Philly getting over 24. I don't think that their offense scores more than 24. I think you're seeing a different team than you saw against Buffalo as far as their defense-wise. I think the Niners are going to contain the quarterback. You got two bookends now that can shrink the field and they can shrink the pocket. When you have a soft defensive end or guys that can't necessarily set at hard edge, when you have two defensive ends that can set a hard edge. Now your linebackers don't have to run so far laterally. Now they can play from end to end. Now they can play in that phone booth. And I think that's one of those big things that a lot of people don't understand, that when you have two ends that make sure that the tackles can't run them wide and they keep their outside shoulder free, and now they constrict the hole. Now the running back, he's got to pick. He can't bounce outside. Now that's when Greenlaw and Warner can be even more dominant and more effective, because now they can play within that phone booth and they don't got to cover every blade of grass. I think that's very, very critical and unbelievable, going to help the Niners in so many ways that you just can't imagine, by being able to constrict the line and making the linebackers being able to run more freely downhill and don't have to run so wide. I think that's going to be huge and play a huge facet in why the Niners have so much success today on defense.
Well, and it's interesting because coming into this game, and I think people looking at the Eagles would say they got the advantage in the trenches, and it's primarily because of their offensive line. Lane Johnson is going to be active for this game after missing last week, but the 49ers defensive line to me is so much better than it was even last year. It's star-studded, and with the addition of Chase Young, who again has 3.5 sacks in 4 career games against the Philadelphia Eagles, I think this is a 49ers defensive line that isn't going to have to blitz as much and can still get pressure with 4. My question is, how does their O-line hold up against the Eagles' D-line? So right now, the defensive lines to me are both dominant groups, and I think this is a game in which the 49ers show that they are gritty, they are tough, and that they can win at the point of attack, because in order to win, they're going to need to do so.
Oh, you're absolutely right, and it's going to be important. It's going to be very imperative that the offensive line, like you just alluded to, for the Niners hold up and show out. I think it's very imperative that they have to play well and they have to play big, because they are going to. That's the biggest question mark. Like you talked about, special teams in the offensive line. Can you buy the time that Purdy needs when he has to throw the ball downfield, when he has to go deep? Can you do that? But that's why I think that you're going to have to say, come out, establish the run the ball, get to the outside, make sure you use Fred, make sure you use their strengths, not their weaknesses.
And right now in Philadelphia, it's looking like about 42 degrees as they move towards the night portion of their schedule. Look, winds are not as bad as expected, about 5 to 10 miles per hour, slight chance of a rain shower. But still, I mean, it's going to be a hostile environment, maybe the most hostile environment in football right now, with the way that Eagles fans have been hyping up this game. They've been calling into the station. They've been chiming in on our YouTube chat. They've been chiming in on the Comcast business text line. So the 49ers have an opportunity to, of course, grab a game away from Philadelphia to give themselves the tiebreaker, but also they have a chance to go into a place and silence a lot of people, silence a lot of doubters, silence a lot of critics, both whether it's about Brock Purdy, whether it's about Kyle Shanahan, whether it's about that defense, whether it's about the 49ers as a whole, Lo. I know they're looking forward to shutting up a lot of people on the East Coast, both national and local, and that is why we're seeing them walk into that building in all black.
Yeah, I can't wait. You got to show me that video. Oh, my goodness, just watching Denver go down, Hail Mary in the end zone. Russ Wilson throws this interception, and watching, that was a great game. Houston finds a way to win this one. You look at Russ try to scramble, has a guy in the back of the end zone, doesn't throw it high enough, jump ball, doesn't come down with it. Don't want this to end up being like the Niners. I think the Niners not going to be in it. I don't think it's going to come down to the last drive of the game. I think the Niners, if they come out to play, that I know that they're capable of playing and play with that intensity that we're talking about, the fast start, get off the bus and start quick. And that's how you're going to end, is going to be ending with that type of momentum. I really believe that the Niners have to go in this game and act like it's a business trip, what they already shown that they are, and just start fast and come out and play physical. I think the biggest element, like I said, and once again, is the physical element that the 49ers are going to put on the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't think Philadelphia is going to be ready for this physical element because of the fact they just got out of a tough game with Buffalo. So I still think the Niners have a huge advantage there.
They do. And look, they have advantage if you want to look at, statistical breakdowns, some of the position groups. They have advantages in this football game, but it's about doing it, because we've been talking about it throughout this show here on the Kickoff Show. The Eagles have had advantages, or have been at disadvantages against a lot of the recent opponents, but they've found ways to win. Can the 49ers find a way to win in Philadelphia? I actually think that they're going to play from ahead for most of this game, because I think that they're the better team on this given day. Everything gets wiped clean once you come into the playoffs, once you get to the postseason. But here on this day, on December 3rd, Week 13 in Philadelphia, I think the 49ers will be the better team, because that's what they've demonstrated to me thus far. And I think if we're talking about the 9 lives that the Philadelphia Eagles have been playing with, I think they run out this afternoon.
Yeah, it's going to be, we shall see, as that old saying is, we shall see.
Yeah.
And this is going to be a game, like I said, it's going to come down to 3 phases. All 3 phases, everyone knows what that is: offense, defense, and special teams. Who's going to create the new line of scrimmage offensively and defensively? Who's going to win the turnover battle? Who's going to have those hidden yards on special teams? There's a lot of things that the Niners can improve on. There's a lot of things that Philly can improve on. So I think that you had a couple extra days, if you're the Niners, to improve on the special teams, to clean up some of those things that you know that you needed to clean up. So I think heading into this game, the Niners know what's at stake. The Philadelphia knows what's at stake. This game comes back down to who is the better team. Who wants it the most and who's the better team? And because, like I said, I'll go back again in closing, is because the Niners have that 3-day rest, I give them a huge advantage.
And we will find out who the better team is today in just about 10 minutes. The kickoff between the 49ers and the Philadelphia Eagles at Lincoln Financial Field. This has been the Kickoff Show with Lorenzo Neal, Evan Giddings. A big appreciation to John Lucan behind the board producing this bad boy. Make sure to tune in to Overtime after the final whistle between these bad boys, between these heavyweight prize fighters. Mark Grandy and Sterling Bennett will have your reaction for you right here on 95.7 The Game, as they do each and every 49ers game this year. Lo, it's been a lot of fun. I can't wait to get it on.
Me either, baby. Let's go.
All right, we're going to send it to Fox Sports Programming again. Overtime after the final whistle. 49ers Eagles, we appreciate you tuning in to the Kickoff Show presented by Habas Law. If you've been wrong, Habas Law will fight to make it right. Call 1-800-INJURED to visit habaslaw.com. My name is Evan Giddings. That's Lorenzo Neal. We appreciate you tuning in to this version of the Kickoff Show. Hopefully the 49ers can get it done. We'll find out who the best in the NFC is in just about 10 minutes. Enjoy the game. We'll talk to you next time.
Bang, bang, Niner gang.
To get rid of the ball, 23 seconds to go, and all the Tennessee Titans are hoping to do is have a successful punt and probably send this game into overtime. Here's the punt.
He gets it off.
He gets it off, and it's a nice high punt. Colts will try to get a return, go nowhere from their own 22. At this point, with 13 seconds left, why risk it? Just send this game into overtime. So we'll probably go into overtime.
With Minshew magic, you're telling me you're not going to take a shot?
The Jets failed. The Jets failed on their comeback.
That is, I'm shocked.
I know.
Color me shocked.
So they fumbled the ball. That's what happened. So they had the ball, and there was a fumble recovered by the Falcons. So the Falcons took over. They lead at the 2-minute warning over the Jets by a score of 13-8. You sure that Aaron Rodgers wants to return to this mess?
Well, again, I'm not sure what Aaron Rodgers wants to do.
At 4-8, can we officially cross the Jets out?
You're absolutely right, Steve. So Gardner Minshew,
what is he doing?
They run a play. Shane Steichen puts in his offense. They try to run a play. It is a jailbreak up the middle, and Gardner Minshew had a ball tipped, and it was nearly intercepted deep inside Colts territory.
What are you doing? 13 seconds to play.